Jan, now it's your turn. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you again. So as we said, we talk about nozzles for mostly nozzles, not a whole of things connected to growing specialist crops, mostly focusing on spraying technology and especially nozzles. Then we talk about nozzles types, selection of nozzles, and then eventually with our best recommendation. So to protect your crops efficiently, we optimize our nozzles and nozzles use and for best biological performance to get the pesticide, the active ingredient deposited and uptaken on target crops, not off target, not to be drifted away, and of course spray as much as possible per day, because time is money, and for this more and more important is to prevent neighboring crop or the sprayed crop injury or operator injury or harm, not to harm operator during spraying, or untargeted persons that are walking or riding or running around. So that's why drift control is more and more important. Proper dosage and retention of pesticide at right rate on leaves assures or at least minimizes the risk of resistance grow up over time, especially that in specialist crops, as we know, there are pretty many sprays, sometimes every week or more often you have to spray. And hence, environmental protection becomes more and more important. It's enough to say that many countries of Europe have, especially in Germany, but also other countries, have already drift regulation. So you have to obey the drift to protect buffer zones, especially. But now it goes even more in countries that do not have the drift reduction regulation. They start to the pesticide makers, phytopharmaceutical companies start to update their labels with buffer zones and the drift reduction percentage recommendation, both to secure threat of drift and injuring adjacent crops, but also to save especially waters and general environment. As I said, this is all to fulfill regulations this way or another, but we all have encountered these different and changing regulations. So there's obviously the focus of European Union and elsewhere, not only in European Union, generally in Europe, to be more strict in order to save our nature. But for farmers, for growers, it all has to be profitable. What Lechler can do for this. We come to you, to our end users eventually via our distributors and our professors or influential people from agriculture or orchard area. We provide innovative nozzles and accessories. We always develop, change, and adjust to a changing world. And one of our our focus is to reduce drift and generally provide nozzles for drift reducing application techniques, as drift is really which means spraying off target, not on target, is on one side it's a pure loss of pesticide, and on the other side, so it's loss of profitability, and on the other side it is a harm for environment. we assure that our nozzles are made on high quality. So that's why, for this reason, some of you already visited our company. They know that we do quality checks. This is a special department for quality checks, special machines, and every batch of nozzles are being tested every day in our in-house division. And also invest in modern production technique and processes. For example, we are now updating our hollow cone nozzles with new not only construction but also new materials, more powerful, environmentally friendly, yet more durable nozzles. This is all to comply with international standards. For this reason, we put a lot of efforts to secure that our nozzles are certified by independent organizations. One of that is the JKI, famous institute, famous all over Europe, for approving testing and approving nozzles, for giving them certificates of propriety on the one side, and on the other, giving them approvals for low drift regulations, and some other specific solutions as well. When it regards to nozzle technique, we focus on some basics like nomenclature. We'll talk about this just to be on the same page with everybody when we speak, when we communicate to our listeners or our customers. And then mostly today what we will discuss is the flat fan nozzles, but we will actually start with hollow cone, which everybody knows. These are the typical, many years, decades already known and well proven nozzles in spacious crops generally, and some other nozzles, especially OCO, IDKS or IS for herbicide boom nozzles that are also needed for herbicide fallows, just in inrows on the ground, just below trees or bushes. And then we speak about proper nozzle selection, that is modal spraying, whether it's air-assisted vertical booms or horizontal booms, target crops, mostly it's crops or soil. Environmental requirements like buffer zones, about rates, liter per hectare rates, liters per minute rates per nozzle, weather conditions and tools for this, like wind meter, sprayer speed, also influences quality, used pressures. Generally, the tendency is to lower pressures, not to overspray, especially that our ultras are thinner and thinner, shorter and shorter, so there's not as much need of pressures above 20, over often 20 or 30 bars even. Barely anybody sprays over 20 these days. And many modern sprayers, orchards require just 10 bars, not more. And droplet size, of course, as you know, the common rule is the more of the droplets it is per same amount of liquid per hectare. The more droplets, the smaller they are, and then more driftable, more fine, maybe better coverage on the one hand, but on the other, normally, as we proved today, poorer retention. We'd like to also show you some helpers like application for calculating proper selection of nozzles, error prevention, detection and prevention, and a little bit about test sprayer checks and accessories. About nomenclature, nozzles are made of, mostly the housing of nozzles are made of polyoxymethylene, which we call POM, but the real wearing units or parts of the nozzles which are here, a mouthpiece called orifice that read decides about spray pattern and droplets creation, and most of the surface tension happens here. especially with higher pressures. So these elements of nozzles are made of high quality ceramic. But also the upper part, the pre-orifice, what we call, that mostly the sides on the especially in terms of flat fan nozzles, the side on the capacity also are made, if it's a ceramic nozzle, they are made of ceramic. And this is described as here as letter C. The nozzle size normally recalculated to liters per minute, but officially originally coming from gallons per minute. That's 0.067. That is actually 0.067 of a gallon per minute at less than 3 bars pressure. Of course, expressed in PSI, pounds per square inch, as the nomenclature came from America. But nevertheless, every this size is recalculated, as you well know, for liters per minute. Then we have spray angle. In ultras, in hollow cone nozzles would have 80 degrees, and these flat fan that are designed, specially designed for air blast sprayers, ultra vertical sprayings, have to be narrow angled too. They're flat on the one hand, so they don't spray too much on the vent and other parts of a sprayer. They are 90 degrees angle, so narrower than normally 120 degrees. And the name actually begins from the type, whether it's TR for hollow cone nozzles or IDK. Here for ID stands for air-induced nozzles, K for compact. That is why IDK. And first of the nozzles that are, as we said already, most famous and well proven for years, for decades in specialist crops, not only orchards but vineyards and also berry farms, or spraying with friends on kind of a little bit specialist crops like strawberries. There are TR nozzles, hollow cone nozzles, still available from Blechner. There are TR 80 degrees with this construction. So it's up on the top there is a swirl or insert, and then in the bottom a ceramic mouthpiece or ceramic orifice. Capacity is from 0.05 to 0.5, so pretty wide range. They are all ISO standards, ISO colored. So every capacity, as we discussed on the previous slide, would have its representing sign. So when it's 0.2, it will be yellow always, if it's ISO standard. But here we would like to also show you something new that is coming, and actually it really came, as I have already my first, I had this TR60 nozzle in the new construction.
Maybe Jan, once again, show it to the camera. It was a little bit too short to follow.
Yes, of course.
We can really see it. Yeah, you see this a new type of the first TR60s, and you see also a different range. Different design.
5 millimeter flange for the first time ever. This one is 60 degrees, which there will be both 60 and 80 degrees for the next year planned, of course, not for now. 2 millimeters are planned to have black, this swirl insert here on top, the flange, and 5 millimeter will be gray. For all capacities, always gray in swirl insert. The ceramic orifice, and inside the ceramic wedges, as they are called, which is a swirl plate, the bottom part of the inner plate, the insert, also ceramic. So it's already available, finally, only in capacity 0.067, something to start with at least. And as you see, the construction is different. It's easily openable. I open it like that with just fingers. Maybe you cannot see very well.
It's good to see. It's good to see. Good demonstration.
At least we see it live. It's available now. Available finally. After long development, it takes some time because it's not easy to design and then start to manufacture nozzles. It's very precise work, but it's okay. It's available in different construction, as you see here. This one you had to open with some kind of pliers or something. This one with really 2 fingers only. Similar like to the previous slide showed the new design of IDK nozzles, or ID 90 and ID 120. This type of the insert, the air reduction insert. Normally with other nozzles here, this is not air reduction. This is not the dosing pre-orifice here. It's just a swirl insert. And here, this brown element is the wedges that I mentioned, this so-called swirl plate in the bottom from this the other brown ceramic here. And as I said, this is the TR60 for a bit higher reach, as narrower angle consolidates droplets a little bit more than TR80. But TR80 are also planned for the next year. As you can see here, 2 millimeter versus 5 millimeter flange. And this, so far, it's only available TR60 in the 5 millimeter flange, the new for us flange, for longer threading caps, available in 0067. Narrow droplet spectra is typical for TR kind of nozzles that are producing only fine droplets, normally about 100 micrometers in diameter. As it said, in the new design available in the new coming TR60, but also from the next year planned for TR80 as well, and eventually the old type TR80 will be outdated and will be stopped manufactured eventually. Of course, as typical hollow cone nozzles, they are pretty much resistant to clogging since they don't have flat mouthpiece, but round hole. So this is easier for very dense mixtures of suspensions or true solutions, as growers usually use, but not always. As you know, Elrey only makes all the nozzles in ISO colored, so it's easy to exchange between these hollow cones and flat fan nozzles, about which I will speak later. That is important for farmers' security, that if they decide to change, maybe not necessarily from all of the vertical boom, but maybe at first on top once, to prevent drift from upper nozzles. They can easily change at least some of them to start with, to feel better, secure, as these hollow cone nozzles are really predominant in Europe. So flat fan are not yet very popular, but we believe they should be. This is the real potential for not only saving drift, but especially increased retention and actually efficacy, because retention means efficacy. We don't spray just to spray out, we spray to stay and be uptaken by leaves, by plants. That's our farmers' most target objective. I think this is about these hollow cone nozzles. Let's go now to our first in history, and also in terms of a bit coarser droplets, not too much long step. So we suggest to you and to growers just to change gradually, not to get lost. It's like learning to walk. You first make short, unstable walk step, and then you learn to walk eventually. Run. So we don't suggest you start from crawling to running instantly, but just make slow steps first. And the slow step is slow step is AD 90. Typical orchard nozzle, as it is 90 degrees. We also make AD in 120 degrees, wider, which are good, of course, for boom sprayers, for horizontal boom sprayers, but for spacious crops, vertical booms, we make the narrow angle 80-90. The good thing about this is that it's all ceramic. Of course, housing is from polyoxymethylene, as all of our nozzles, but the pre-orifice up there responsible for dosing, for capacity, and the orifice, the mouthpiece, responsible for droplet creation and proper distribution at the right angle, and fan. They are all made of high quality ceramic, white ceramic. They are not air-reduced nozzles, so that is why they don't have to be long. They are very compact, even shorter than TR nozzles. So in orchards, when there are some bushes and are pretty tight, it's important they are not exposed to any breakage or something. Very, very powerful nozzles. We redesigned them over the last 2 years, step by step. As the old ones used to be, maybe I'll show you as well, if you can see this. The old one is like here, the yellow one, with much more ceramic, but really not necessarily, because it was outside, even exposed to breakages, because it was exposed, you know. This is the old one. The yellow one is old 80-90.
Yeah, and a little bit closer to the camera, now it's good. Now it's good.
Okay. And the olive color 80, the new capacity actually is 0067. Obviously, the capacity is typical for orchards, so it's another proof that this is a real orchard nozzles, and this is the pre-orifice, like in IDK. This is the difference, just with 2 fingers openable for cleaning, but it has no air-induced holes. Yeah? It is not a non-air-induced nozzle, but not deflector. Sorry, it's but still with the pre-orifice, which of course consolidates droplets inside, and the droplets come out coarser, larger, just a little bit larger than with TR nozzles. No change in the lower part, just in the upper part. Old versus new. And all the capacities here we have now exchanged. So all 80-90s that are available now are in the modern design already. Very, very good nozzles. And I tell you, in many, especially Western countries, starting from Germany, Holland, they are approved for 90% drift control, which is very, very important, as we said, about these low losses and more retention on leaves. Also good for kind of sensor. Some manufacturers make still sprayers, vertical booms with tree sense system. So it's important for fast formation and quick switch off the spray. Since they are not air-induced nozzles. As I said, perfect first step if someone really wants to limit the drift and increase retention, improve quality and efficacy, and eventually profitability, to switch gradually from hollow comb to flat fan nozzles. They can be sprayed at also high pressures, but not necessarily really. We don't recommend spraying over 10 bars these days, especially with quite thin and not as high trees as before, grown in spallers, so in continuous row, not necessarily to go for extremely high pressure and to overblow air. This is the common error, to use too high air, too strong air. Okay, let's go further to IDK 90. When you get a bit higher trees, like there's even a movie that shows how it sprays the IDK 90 being already air-induced, so it's a bit longer, and also in this flat fan pre-orifice technology, but with air holes on both sides, all ceramic orifice, and on top pre-orifice. So prepared for high pressures as well. Narrow angle, 90 degrees, means therefore Orchard. Sorry, I forgot to exchange this graph, because they are now also these pictures from the old. Also, we have exchanged that the construction here to we a little bit cut off edges just to prevent from this destruction or breakages from branches in orchards. So these IDK 90 nozzles are changed in construction lately, and also added larger capacities, which is important especially for Southern Europe, where you have warmer climate, and as you may guess, as you know, in higher temperatures, when there is lower humidity, the threat of a fast evaporation of droplets before they are uptaken by leaves is increasing. The threat of evaporation and unproductive evaporation is higher. So the growers down in Southern Europe, especially in the season, in summer season, if they have to spray, they have to use coarser droplets and higher amounts, higher rates per hectare, well over 500 liters per hectare even. And also IDK 90s are good because of this coarser droplets, and as you know, coarser is heavier. Heavier droplets have higher energy when they come out and are blown with air. They can reach higher trees. So all trees higher than 3-4 meters would require nozzles like IDK or even ID 90s to reach higher trees, nut trees mostly, or cherry trees. And new capacities which we've made lately, last year and the second to last year, is 0, 4, 5, and even 6, up to 6, all made in ceramic. Maybe I'll show you here the list of drift that is used for different countries. So you can see here ID, which I'll speak about later, ID 90s, but IDK 90s as well. They even get 95%, which are in some countries are required, but in most other, and also the pesticide growers would recommend decreasing buffer zones if they use nozzles with 90% drift. This is for vineyards, however. We also have this for orchards as well. Here you see ID 90 nozzles, so all plus ITR, which I will speak about later. And this list is available on our website. And if the pesticide growers inform in their official label in different countries, in your country, for example, that this acaricide or any other insecticide or whatever is required to have 20-meter buffer zone because of adjacent water or public roads, or if you use the spraying technique limiting drift by 90%, then you can decrease the buffer proportionally, maybe by half or even more, depending on the label and the insecticide or acaricide or another pesticide. And that means that they refer to this information. So your customers yourself can always check in our official list this information. For countries where there are no locally official lists, countries like, as I said, Germany, Holland, Denmark, but in the territory where I work, Norway, Sweden, and Czechia, they have their own lists already. Other countries, especially in central and more eastern part of Europe, they don't have yet such lists, so they can refer to the official list of nozzle maker. In this example, Lechler, that we offer here. And now the even longer nozzle in the air-induced technology, but narrow angle type of nozzle is ID 90. And in the also changed design traditional design, you will see it later on another picture, are with this exposing thing here, and a little bit more rectangular shape, not as here, wider in the top and narrower in the bottom. But this is the newer redesigned construction of these ID90 nozzles, typical for orchards as well. So means for high pressure, only in ceramic, available both orifice and pre-orifice. In different capacities, also including very low capacities starting from 0.1 up to 0.6.
In Germany, there's a difference. If you want to have approval in vineyard, there's a different way of analyzing compared to orchard, and this is the list for orchard. So don't get confused. There are two lists available. In some other countries, there's only one list, but this is the one for orchard, which is Obstbau at the top.
As you see, 50, 75, and 90%. And here, when we go to 90%, you will see different, including AD90, IDK90, IDK, ID90, and of course ITR, which are very extremely drift reducing nozzles.
Maybe just a comment, Jan, from my side. Just maybe do it a little bit bigger on the plus on the top end. Just if you open this list, just for your own knowledge, it is always a combination of nozzle and also the fan. You see also some regulation that you need to lower the speed of the fan, and also a pressure limitation. This is similar than on the field crops. But on field crops, on boom sprayers, it's a little bit easier. You just have a nozzle, and then you make a pressure setting, a decent pressure setting, and then you have a drift reduction. And in orchard, as we have always the combination of nozzle and fan, there's also some regulations to get to the very high drift classes. So it's a little bit more complicated, but of course, if you have questions to adapt to your country, get in touch with us.
Okay, thank you again.
Yeah,
it is true. Air is very important. Blowing air in orchards.
Yeah. So if there should be no setting, you maybe get 50 to 75, sometimes 90, but for the very high drift reduction, also there are regulations how to set the fan speed or the air volume. Okay, Jan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And now the ITR nozzles, which are only available in three sizes, 0.1, 0.15, and 0.2. Extremely high pressure nozzles, air induced and hollow cone. This is funny. So if you really have something like heavy suspension or whatever that are not that much easily clogging, heavy mixture, plant mixture, and you really want to limit your drift dramatically or reach higher trees, then especially in Southern Europe, we're selling quite some ITR nozzles, but they're only available in lower capacities, three sizes available. And please note that the minimum pressure here would be 10 bars. These are typical high pressure nozzles. What are benefits of this flat fan? The three types, remember, which we shortly discussed here, the AD90, the nearest to the TR hollow cone nozzles. Then gradually, with higher drift reduction, will be IDK90 and eventually ID90. The significant drift reduction, up to 95, 99% even in some countries, officially approved by independent and international bodies in different countries, but if they are not country-specific authority organizations that do the drift approvals, then you can always base your recommendation on official nozzle manufacturer site, which is Lechler, and using the independent governmental organization, which is JKI, Julius Kuhn Institute, well known in all Europe. You see, these flat fan nozzles, what they give, they cover similarly to hollow cone nozzles, maybe less, because obviously when you have coarser droplets, there will be less of them when you compare to fine droplets. This is obviously, but then most of your droplets when you spray will really stay on leaves, will not go into atmosphere or into adjacent crops or maybe on grass. So eventually, I'll show you later when we measured this retention, what pesticide was really uptaken or stayed on crops, there will be same or even better effect with saved environment. So that is why we really would like to encourage you and then spread this knowledge to your customers, to your listeners when you speak to them, to talk about flat fan nozzles. Because the droplets are coarser, bigger, they have higher energy to penetrate canopies if they are denser, if they need to be better penetrated. I will show you this also with the independent studies, the trials that were performed, not necessarily by Lechler, but by independent organizations. So eventually, with these flat fan nozzles, what is important for not for only, but especially for growers, but also for all the societies, at least the same biological efficacy we obtain from spraying with flat fan nozzles, even if you don't see this spraying too much, but especially with saving environment and saving adjacent crops. And we'll continue these benefits. No visible spray deposit. Why? Because if you spray this apple, let's say, with hundreds of ultra fine droplets from hollow cone nozzle, they are so fine that in low humidity of air, especially when it's let's say summertime, or late summertime, farmers will what's the result? You will have these tiny, very, very tiny droplets that they will evaporate unproductively very quickly from the fruit skin before being uptaken, totally or to a large extent. So we don't spray with pure water, as you know. Farmers spray with pesticide, with solution. So there are salts, there are some chemicals in it. And when they evaporate too quickly, the salts will stay on. And then when the sun shines, then there will be spots and not good crop, not good apples, not looking nice. So it's the value of such fruits then becomes lower. We spray less dependent on weather conditions because it's same idea. When you spray with hundreds of thousands of fine droplets, not only they will go immediately be drifted away from target, but even they will, if they get to leaves, their chance of being uptaken, get inside of leaves is much lower, especially in unfavorable conditions, whether it's wind because of drift, or whether it's low humidity, high temperature, and sun shining. They will evaporate unproductively very quickly. More if you spray flat fan nozzle versus hollow cone, which is 80 degrees in all of the around in a cone. They are conical, really. Patterns, not flat. They spray also on the construction of sprayer here on this bottom picture. So everything is wet and it drips. This is not good also for the environment. It's a loss. More, and because of this ultra fine droplets, they will be everywhere. Everything is wet and dripping, which you don't have this effect from the actual spraying. This sprayer is not just going through the orchard; it's actually spraying. This is spraying and this is spraying. Can you see what is more accepted by public? and by also yourself, but growers. Maybe just growers' wives will not be happy because they will not see from far away what is going on this orchard and not spraying like here in this South Tyrol, somewhere near Alps. This is maybe needs some kind of acceptance, some kind of knowing the technology. Also, the family should know. Also, the wives of growers should know. Okay, I am spraying, but it's not visible. This is fine because the droplets get to target and not to atmosphere. They are not contaminating our air that we breathe in later. So, because of ISO capacities, as I said, they are easily replaceable. No changes in flow rate and application rate per hectare. If growers just exchange the ISO, provided there are ISO colored nozzles to the other ISO, to the flat fan, one of these ISO nozzles. And I think the last slide before the break, no, the second to last before the break, the nozzles. This is also available in our in a larger table in our catalog, which of course is available online on our webpage. A comparison of these flat fan nozzles versus TR nozzle, hollow cone nozzles. The pattern, the shape, the length of the nozzle itself here, the efficacy, biological efficacy, and this is weird. I know most of the growers will not believe that. No, how it's illogical for them. How can it be that the TR nozzle, hollow cone nozzle, is producing hundreds, millions of droplets like a cloud, cannot be better uptaken by leaves than these droplets that you don't even see that they spray from far? Yes, because they spray to target and not off. They spray, they stay on leaves and are uptaken and do the job. They cover maybe not better than TR, but they penetrate better, so they go deeper to the crop. And as you said, they stay on it. Penetration is higher, of course, and these are JKI approved, means they are stable for drift. You see how much better they are versus hollow cone nozzles. Yeah? Of course, clogging may be an issue. We'll speak about that as well later, because flat fan may clog easier. For this reason, they should use, like also TR80 nozzles, should use proper filtering. But if you don't, and most growers don't use proper filtering, they don't get easily clogged. That is true. But with here, it's more critical. Same filter sizes, 25 mesh or mostly 50-60 mesh. Most of the nozzle capacities this is okay. But use this filtering and clean the sprayer because they may get clogged. This is just the one of the two maybe necessary preconditions for this. The risk of damage maybe for the long ID90 is higher than TR60, but these more compact ones are similar, like IDK90 and AD90, even lower risk of damage than with TR nozzles. The other important thing to care for when switching from hollow cone to flat fan nozzles is the pressure range. Of course, no need to go higher. You can go up to 20, but it's really not necessarily. It's not recommended. 10 is okay, 8 to 15 bars max. The other thing is that they should be oriented. You remember that horizontal boom sprayers have automatic aligning of the flat fan nozzles thanks to the multi-jet system on nozzle holders. Here you have normally brass nozzle holders with threaded caps, so you don't have the angle alignment, automatic alignment here of flat fan nozzles. So this is the only thing you have to be careful, and the customers growers have to be careful and put them parallel to each other, not to, one this, one here. As flat as possible, not to be, of course, perpendicular, but a little bit offset so that every other neighboring fan is overlapping rather than hitting the former, the upper or lower fan. This is normally set to 7 up to 10 degrees offset, which is informed on every of our catalog page about these narrow angle flat fan nozzles. This is showed how we assemble it. So they have all thin flange, 2 millimeter flange, so they require either the 3 millimeter gasket with the cap strainer or the other strainer, or a 5 millimeter gasket for the long threading caps. And filtering, this is the last slide before we have a short break. You can see here, normally we recommend nozzle strainers. Most of the nozzles for 25, some of the smallest capacities of flat fan, but also hollow cone nozzles, same. Use 60 or 50 mesh size. The higher the mesh size means the finer the eyelets are on the mesh, on the filter. Currently, the red color is 0.25 and the blue color is 60 mesh. If growers don't want to really use individual nozzle strainers, they may use, which also they normally do, the line strainer or pressure strainer, but additionally line strainer, 2 line strainers, or 1 for additionally closer to the boom. In modern sprayers, there would even be self-cleaning filters, but if not, that is fine. You just have to clean it daily. But the rule is that it has to be 1 category finer, the filter. If they are not the strainer, the nozzle strainers here located, but 1 line strainer, it has to be, instead of, for example, 25, it would have to be 50 or 60 mesh. And instead of 60, as required in our catalog for the particular nozzle type and capacity, they have to be 80 mesh.
And then just as I do now on the top end, options, and it says annotate or comment, and then if you go there on the top end, you can comment, and then you can see stamp or draw
or text.
And regarding orchard, I'm writing now for Germany and orchard. It's still, I hope you can see it.
Yes,
50%, this is the guess, is hollow cone, and the rest is maybe 25 in orchard is 80K, and 25 is a D nozzle. And the long style ID is not used so much anymore because of the length. So you can also open your microphone or you put in the chat just to give us an indication from your markets, if you have any idea or any figure.
Yes, some experience, some knowledge.
On the top end, there's options, and then there's annotate, and then the second bar is opening, and then you can stamp or drawing, and then you can also mark here on the slide. Should be possible. Okay, Alessandro says, okay, IDK 120, which is normally a field nozzle, or IDK 90. And the development over the last years, and I speak now for Germany, we still have a lot of hollow cone nozzles in use because of the tradition. And we at Lechler, we take it serious, and we are developing, as Jan showed, a new series of TR nozzles, TR60, and then now also TR80, to offer really a full range for all customers. But we see the tendency where drift control is much more in focus of the growers. The next step from the right to the left, as Jan said, is 80-90, which is a small step from hollow cone. And you can also create a medium, easily a medium droplet spectra, and if then drift control needs to be higher, they go the next step to IDK 90. Pedro is marking out now also TR and 80-90. Like in Poland, Jan, in Orchard, what is the most common used nozzle?
Yeah, still, of course, TR80, kind of hollow cone nozzles, but they are slowly being introduced to the flat fan nozzles, especially for higher portions of vertical bolts to limit drift, to increase reach of higher branches and penetration if needed. So, of course, in percentage-wise, it's even not 25% as you have in Germany. I would say it's maybe still below 10%, I have to say.
And the rate or the share of hollow cone, and as you know, Albus is a competitor of Lechler. It's a well-known, good quality nozzle. Also here, Albus ATR, but the share is dropping and dropping and dropping. From tradition point of view, and if I talk to farmers over the last 10 years, when I started at Lechler, about 10 years ago, hollow cone was still the standard in orchard, but now in wine, if I talk to wine, IDK 90, this one is becoming the new standard in wine. Everybody is using, or more and more using, IDK 90, more than half, this is my guess, close to 60-70% is using air-induced nozzle, because they just do not like this very fine cloud, and it's not accepted anymore from bystanders, from people walking by. They say, what are you doing if you're blowing around like hell? It's maybe different in other countries, and we don't want to turn around the world. Let's put it this way. If customers would like to spray with a hollow cone, because they are highlighting this here, clogging. I do not accept any clogging. If they highlight this, then of course, they have to go to a hollow cone. But our experience shows, and we will come to this later, experience shows if you have a proper filtering and you're flushing your sprayer in a normal way, then you have not more issues, and that's what the star marks. You have not more issues, especially with 80 or with IDK 90, if you have a proper setup. You have not more. At the beginning, farmers are concerned. I also heard a lot of doubts. Oh, I don't want to go from hollow cone to some other nozzle types because I'm afraid of clogging. I had hundreds of discussions like this. But now the experience is coming back. It's working. So thanks you for contributing for this small survey. Jan, it's your turn, please.
Well, thank you, Jürgen, for this idea. Great input also about your experience with German market, which is a really good example for others. And I would only add that we have to clean these notes then. Okay, thank you. Of course, I would like to stress or underline that these days orchard or other spacious crops don't look that much different than vineyards. They are narrow, slim, same size, height, mostly. So this is let's use the good example of others that already learned something, like they did. They have learned in Germany, and use this opportunity to improve profitability and yet safe environment.
Jan, maybe one additional comment, because we just talked about clogging and filtering, and as a standard, you have a line strainer with 50 mesh. Maybe one nozzle, one back, yeah. Can you hear me, Jan?
Yes.
Yes, because I just mentioned clogging and hollow cone versus flat fan, and the most important filter, and this is also a mandatory for a field sprayer, when customers have issues with clogged nozzles, especially smaller sizes, the main pressure filter, or called the line strainer here, should be changed to an 80 mesh. should be changed to an 80 mesh filter. This is a yellow one. This is the main filter, and not the little cup strainer at the back side in front of the nozzle. And a standard equipment is the 50 mesh, which is a blue one. But if farmers today are using successfully hollow cone, switching from hollow cone to flat fan, they're putting a yellow filter as a pressure side filter, and already some manufacturers do it ex-factory with new sprayers. In the past, they did 50 mesh. This is the blue one, and now they changed to 80 mesh because also the hollow cone nozzles can be quite small in capacity, so they have a better performance.
Okay.
And the line strainer in the back, that's always an option, depending on the sprayer you're running or the manufacturer. Not all sprayers have the option for a line strainer in the back, but more and more have, because they're adapting their sprayers to the market needs. Because we have also two colleagues from Italy here, the example like in South Tyrol. Everybody knows South Tyrol as a major region for apple growing. And in the past, everybody was using hollow cone in South Tyrol to spray apples. They said, it works okay. We have a lot of fine droplets. We have no clogging, but they have a major issue with the people living there. It's a tourist area, and they're just finding too much plant protection ingredients everywhere in South Tyrol, in this valley. And now, since some years, it's mandatory in South Tyrol to use drift-reduced technology. They have to use air-induced nozzle. It's no choice anymore. At the beginning, of course, it was a huge discussion. Oh, we cannot go like this. We will have no nice fruits anymore. But now, after some 2 or 3 years, people get used to it. They adapt the filtering. They adapt their habits. They're flushing regularly. There are more manufacturers in South Tyrol. They adapt the design of the sprayer, and now they just have to do it. And they see, okay, it also works, and we have much less discussions about drift now as they're using drift-reduced technology. And there it's mandatory because it's a very concentrated area there in this valley, down from the Alps down to Bozen.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you again for this nice example from South Tyrol, which is in northern Italy. It's really good fruit growing area.
Yeah. Okay, Jan, please.
Okay, thank you. The off-center nozzle, OC, are used for herbicide booms to leave unsprayed band, which is called herbicide fallow, under trees, and cut off precisely the spraying of this normal total herbicide here when the tractor drives and people walk, whatever, that you want to have grass, here alone. So for this reason, we use off-center nozzles, and with additional swivel, you can tilt it and then adjust the spray. This is traditional, made of stainless steel or brass nozzle. With quite low pressure nozzles for spraying herbicides on the trees. And we went further with this to the IS severely drift reducing nozzles, especially that when you can imagine when the drift blows and even you spray it down here and there are some leaves already, green leaves on trees, then they can be injured. So the drift is crucial here, and it's much better, and most of farmers already switched to IS or IDKS. So the border nozzles, so-called border nozzles, which also can and will cut off sharply the spraying versus unspraying band of loan here, like you can see here in this vineyard. If you need more, you can adjust it with a swivel, which we offer, of course. These are, of course, 80 degrees nozzle, which if you spray it, normally you put it vertically, like the same nozzles are actually used in field boom sprayers for the last so-called border nozzle. And then it's done like that to spray 20 degrees to the outside, to the border of the field, where actually the boom ends. So it's 25 centimeters away from its location at the height of 50 centimeters spraying, and 60 degrees inward to overlap with neighboring nozzle, normal nozzle spraying 120 degrees. So here, if you have narrow herbicide fallow in 3 rows, then you use single nozzle and spray from both sides, this side, and then on the other side, you spray like this when you go on the next row. But if you have wider herbicide fallows, then of course I haven't added that these IS nozzles also have 90% drift approved production by JKI. They are made all of POM. These are not ceramic. So what you can see here as well, but this is not very popular. To be really more proper, we also recommend these border nozzles for vertical boom to spray on top to cut off the last spray, and at the same time limit the drift. If you, for example, use hollow cone or AD90 nozzles in the main part of the vertical boom, and the last you can use if you have straight vertical boom, you can use IS nozzle located in this way, and same in the bottom part. But few people do this. That's we have to admit. The problem is that we don't make these IS nozzles in ceramic, pre-orifice and orifice, only polymer. So the pressures, even though rated up to 15, normally they're used up to 8 bars. And more compact ones for lighter winds, let's say, not too strong drift control, however, also rated to 90%. Depending on pressures, of course. These are lower pressure nozzles down to 1.5 bar. And this same use for the herbicide fallow in 3 rows or on vertical boom, the bottom and top nozzle. Same 80 degrees nozzle. Used straight to spray 20 degrees off towards the lawn here, the grass, and 60 degrees the wider angle towards the trunk here where the tree grows.
Maybe also, Jan, one comment from my side. The steps or the customers who are leaving the standard OC, the OC, the off-center nozzle, it's working and we're producing and selling them. But often customers are arriving to our booths on shows that, yes, I'm using OC since 20, 30 years, but when it's getting a little bit windy, my stripe is not straight. It looks like this, how much the wind is blowing. And then we started with the long style IS, but the limit of the long style, maybe 1 slide to the back, it's really a good nozzle, but it should have at least 2.5 bar for a good spray pattern. And for herbicide, we call for the herbicide stripes. And so with the very simple herbicide sprayers, which have a little electric diaphragm pump, often 2 and 2.5 or sometimes 3 bar, they're not achieving this. And then some customers had this experience that I changed from the old style OC to the IS. And then they say, I wasn't happy because I need too much pressure. And the real good solution, and I always recommend this, if you want to go leaving the standard OC flat fan, the off-center, take an IDKS. It's also shorter. You will not break it off that easy. And this really runs Here it's shown with a little 12-volt diaphragm pumps at 1.5 to 2 bars. So in Germany, this is the most used nozzle for herbicide stripes in vineyard, in orchard. The long style is not used that much anymore, because drift control is also really good at this low 1.5 to 2 pressure.
Especially with IDKS, yes.
Correct. Yes. And it runs on every sprayer. And there's often also sprayers are homemade, They're not buying a herbicide sprayer. It's kind of homemade. It should be cheap with a little 12-volt pumps. So IDKS fits well in there.
Yeah. IS, all polymer nozzle only, no ceramic nozzles
polymer
here.
But for this low pressure, it works really, really well.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Good addition. Yeah, this is about 3 rows. We don't have to go deep into this. I think this is understandable. Depending on angle and height, the band will grow wider or narrower. Is how it works. If it's not wide enough, then you can use still 2 nozzles. Then always close to the tractor, the center of the mid row will be the side, the border nozzles, whether it's IS or IDKS, and inside the normal 120 degrees nozzle. For IDKS, it will be IDK, or for IS, it will be ID. Because of the droplet sizes, they should be matched properly. And then this whole herbicide fallow may be white. For wider rows, for wider trees, especially down in the southern Europe where you grow orange groves, then of course your spacing is much wider between rows, even 4 meters or wider, so your herbicide fallow can be wider too. Just to look at the drift damages, the injuries on the crop, depending on what you have sprayed with. Different chemicals may have impact, negative impact on leaves or even on fruits. Whether it's glufosinate or glyphosate popular, it will really damage your crop, and the crop will, if not die, they will at least severe suffer from drift away of these total herbicides. So that's why we do recommend for herbicide fallows mostly low drift nozzles. So instead of OC, persuade, encourage your customers to use IS or IDKS. Most IDKS, because of what Jürgen said, the lower required pressures, which are good for these 12-volt DC pumps. Okay. A little bit of drones, as we discussed shortly with you, Professor Jurek Chojnacki. Drones, JH Independent Institute has approved for some drones our IDK90s, mostly 0.25, but also other capacities for steepy vineyards, steepy, let's say, sharp sloped areas. Where you have difficult access by tractors. So these are available. I know that in Greece they use more and more drones for normal small field sprayings, even not necessarily orchards. But this we don't have yet an experience, not a lot, let's say, experience, and this is not yet approved for in Germany or in any other European Union countries, as I learned. However, we learn from here and there, especially from, for example, from Professor Jerzy Chojnacki. We know that IDK 120 wider angle nozzles, also low drift nozzles, are also working very well, and they seem to have an advantage of spraying a bit wider to increase productivity. Nevertheless, we don't overestimate the productivity of drones, because when they fly, of course they push the droplets down, and they would have to spray very high to spray really wide bands. This is questionable.
Yeah, and there was also one comment from Greece coming. Georg said, yes, farmers use drones, but it's not legal yet. They just try and error. Also, some farmers all over Europe, I heard from Ukraine, they trying because there's no real rules. I would like to open this discussion later on about drone spraying. Just we will go ahead with the webinar, and this will be a good topic for the discussion.
Yeah, especially that we have Professor Chojnacki, who has some experience with drones already. Okay, good.
Okay,
let's go on. A few words about good agricultural practice, especially about factors that do influence our nozzle, let's say, advice, and also that are put in a law and regulations throughout Europe, mostly depending on the wind, but it's 4 to 5 meters per second wind. That's like absolute maximum of allowed sprayings. However, there are tendencies in some countries. I noticed that they allow up to 8 meters per second spray, but that is then conditional only if you can limit it. Can use the drift limiting spraying technique, and of course nozzles, drift approved nozzles up to 95% is such a spray lowering drift spraying technique. So this is the precondition. Another one is relative humidity, especially in summertime or in more southern countries. 30% is absolute maximum, not lower than that. So the higher the humidity, the less chance of lost evaporation, unproductive evaporation. And same with temperature, the lower the better. Of course, not too low, but not higher than 25 degrees. This is optimal, good agricultural practice. For this, we use something like lately released our new renewed, let's say, not that new, but renewed Pocket Wind 4, which not only measure the wind speed, but also relative humidity, wind direction, because it has a compass built in. And what's important, because it has temperature measurement and relative humidity, it will show you so-called delta T temperature, optimal between 2 and 8 degrees, optimal for spraying conditions, calculating both temperature and humidity. So we do recommend this. Now released again, Wind Meter 4, 4th generation, working again and available from us. Regarding drift, of course, we use drift reducing sprayers, whether it's with a sleeve or without, or also tunnel sprayings are such things which we do, of course, recommend if you can have. But generally, the tendency is coarser droplets, yes, because coarser droplets, as we will prove later, and we discussed so far, will limit the drift, unproductive evaporation, and increase retention. Common error is the too high air volume and speed. So this is overspraying. Sometimes we can see that there not only 2 rows are sprayed, but 4 rows to the left and to the right are sprayed with the one pass of spray, which is absolutely not acceptable. Also canopy height can be calculated, and the tree width, the depth of trees. Now with the new trees, the more dwarf varieties, not growing that fast, that wide, but still producing a lot of fruit. It's even apple trees become quite similar in shape and in space to even vineyards. General rule of thumb is that air volume should be as low as possible, not to overspray, not to overblow droplets out of the target. The target normally are, with some exceptions, 2 neighboring rows, and the tractor spray in the middle. Okay. Again, another example of this bad technology, spraying too much, too high, too fine droplets with hollow cones, versus this one, which is just also spraying, not just passing by, spraying with low drift ID90 nozzles. droplet really counts, because like here, you see the example of one droplet of 400 micrometers, which is a coarse droplet, versus medium droplet. There may be 8 droplets of just half of diameter. So you see, you divide the diameter by half, and you increase the number of droplets 8 times. So this is obvious that much more smaller droplets may provide better coverage, but at a too high price because they are drifted away. Here, the example of amount of droplets of TR versus flat fan nozzle. How many droplets there are per square centimeter of a leaf on the apple variety, and versus ID. So it seems that more. That's why the orchard growers say, no, you don't believe in flat fan nozzles because they will not cover my crop enough. It seems so, but it's not the case. Why? Because, as we said, most of these droplets are drifted away. You see how many are away, how many are only left on an insect. And here it's not as much. It's also some of course, because it's still small, not very coarse droplets, still 200 micrometers, not 100, which is typical from hollow cone nozzle, versus this is from 80-90, maybe barely. It's even 80-90, not all of them. Some of them droplets of 80-90 would be that small. Many would be coarser, but the losses is much reduced. And when the deposit was measured by independent study, as I say, not by Lechler, of TR nozzles, despite the equal coverage, the deposit is much less, more than half decreased. So it's significant. And another independent study, and that one was run in Spain, compared the ID, the flat fan reduced nozzles versus hollow cone nozzle, typical hollow cone nozzle. At this parameter, we have 600 liters per hectare, pressure, similar pressure, speed, air volume, everything similar. And also humidity, relatively good, high humidity, temperature, not too high, everything okay. And these are the result of studies. How much drift we observed, how much more drift we observed, measured in micrograms of BSF per square centimeter, 0.90 versus 0.23, a few times more. Actually, not almost, like 4 times more drifted away pesticide from hollow cone nozzle versus flat fan nozzles, where you can see from the height of 3rd meter, especially after the 2nd meter, no drift at all, while we still had a lot of drift from hollow cone nozzles. Same with losses to the soil. That was like losses in the air, and these are the losses to the soil. These are similar, but the air is significantly higher losses due to spraying with hollow cone superfine droplets versus much coarser droplets, even though much fewer of them. Regarding penetration zones in trees, look on the outside. This is amount of pesticide on per square centimeter. On the outside, usually there's more coverage, more droplets, more pesticide delivered than in the inside. But the inside is even much lowered with hollow cone versus flat fan. That is because higher, of course, the droplets have higher energy and they are delivered better to the inner part of crops, especially when there are denser canopies. So with this, we get, again, because of coarser droplets giving more penetration, higher deposit. When there are a lot of, independent trials made by Bayer, because Bayer, like other phytopharmaceutical companies, are interested to have best efficacy of the product. They don't want, complaints. They don't want claims. They want every grower to be happy of what the pesticide that they spray. So they made independent trials of hollow cone nozzles efficacy versus air-induced nozzles. And what you can see here, if the condition is perfect, super optimal, high humidity, not too high temperature, no wind at all. So you can see here, if the conditions become less optimal, like lower humidity or some more wind, then your efficacy with hollow cone may become even half of your normal expected efficacy, even down to 40%, 50%. And then the benefit, these are individual trials results, maybe even up to 100 and 130% more efficacy than with hollow cone, especially in suboptimal conditions, as we say, drift, wind, low humidity, and so on. So you see, this is independent trials, 130 Bayer crop science trials made in Europe.
In the meanwhile, I can also maybe share experience with the growers, because in some areas, like I already reported South Tyrol, but there's another area in Germany. They are close to a big river, Elbe River, near Hamburg, and they were so low with the water level, so they have so many open waters there beside their orchards. There it's also mandatory since some years to use IDK nozzles or air-induced nozzles. And there were the same concerns. In the past, there was a regulation. They had to use air-induced nozzle at the beginning of the season till the apples had the plum size, they were about 4 to 5 centimeter size. And then later in the season, it was allowed to use hollow cone nozzles, because once again we have hollow cone. If some customers wants to use it because they say, okay, I just want to have it, okay, go for it. But growers there were also very concerned about marks, spray deposit marks on the apples. If they go for juice or if they process, it doesn't care. But if they go for consumption, they should not be marks on apples or cherries and so on. And the growers there, the same as on South Tyrol, they were very concerned with these regulations, but finally they had no choice. The choice was, okay, cut off trees beside the open water or use air-induced technology. And now after some years, it's also working there if you consider some circumstances. So not too high water volume per meter. So they're doing maximum 150 liter per meter tree, or about 350 liters per hectare, not more. And if they spray on dry apples, they have not more marks than with hollow cone nozzles. Of course, if you use 800 liters per hectare and the fruit is not completely dry, and then you spray on with an air induction nozzle, you can have marks because it's running down because you're using just too much water. But as we could see over the last years with some experience, hollow cone is there from the traditional way. And there was also a question from in the chat, what was legal or not legal? What matter is whether it is effective. And effective air-induced is effective on the same level as hollow cone. Of course, you need to consider filtering, and especially when it comes to marks on the fruit, you need to consider that you're not using too much water per hectare.
All right, now this useful helpers. What we do, we have stickers for updated stickers to sprayer tanks, which you can see that they are with. That are now with newer additions like AD900067, for example. And also please note that we have started to make this IDK04, IDK05, and IDK06 now. They are available, fully available in new design and newer capacities, as you could see. Additionally, here, there's some comparison if farmers wanted to change from non-ISO color nozzles to our nozzles, to ISO standard nozzles, which are ours, of course. You can see which color should be exchanged with which color from ISO. This is helpful, and these are stickers available.
Maybe also, Jan, one comment from my end once again, because I can see it was always complicated if farmers were used to Albus. We can say Albus. ATR is from Albus. They had their own color code since whatever 20, 30 years, and they just said, I have Albus brown or Albus orange, and please, I want to change to the flat fan or to the ISO based. But now Albus, which is a competitor, it's a good quality nozzle, does have also ISO colored hollow cone nozzles. So when it comes to Albus, it is AVI, which is also a flat fan, or CVI, and the I means ISO color. And now at Albus range, there's also coming AT, yes, Jan is marking ATI, which is a hollow cone from Albus following ISO standard, like same as Lechler or T-Jet or other ones are doing. So this is also now a time of changing, that everybody is going to the ISO color. So please note, if you talk about changes or color codes, do you have the ISO with Lechler or with the I at the end, or we have still the traditional old style ATR? And this is the comparison for the ATR. Okay. And more and more now it's going to the ISO, but this will take maybe some 4, 5, 6 years till everybody is running the same color with the same flow rate code.
Yeah, correct. Thank you for this.
Yeah.
And one more, if we speak about the ISO versus non-ISO, then just I would like to be clear that TR, our current TR80s, are 2 millimeters flange, while ATR are only 5 millimeters flange. So to exchange this for ATR, you also needed an extra 3 millimeter gasket here. And perhaps for easy exchange or even first installation by some OEMs, some manufacturers, we started to make now the TR60 in 5 millimeter flange, but soon we will be offering both TR80 and TR60 degrees in both traditional by us 2 millimeter flange and 5 millimeter flange. So it will be fully exchangeable. Some other helpers is Lechler app for smartphones. We only support iOS by Apple and Android, and now more and more languages available here, especially in countries where maybe either the alphabet is different, like Greece or Bulgaria, or maybe amongst farmers English is not that commonly understood. So we are implementing now some local languages like Greek, for example, and Polish. But we can soon have also Hungarian. I hope we'll have also Hungarian too. Okay. Nozzle maintenance. We avoid clogging by proper tank mixing. So farmers, especially growers, have to remember about if they do the tank mix, they should really not create any additional suspension or special things that would clog or kind of glue the filters. For this, proper agitation system should work properly, and after a day of work, they should clean the sprays, which is obvious things, of course. Regarding nozzles, because this is our sphere, we talk about removing injector, which is pre-orifice, like that here, for cleaning, and then clean with nozzle brush, or which is even more recommended, especially once a season, after the season, ultrasonic bath, which makes a good work, especially with ceramic. ceramic surfaces, which are always not as shiny, as slippery as POM. So can get clogged easier. Not just a clog, but also deposited on surface. And remember, some deposit may not be very much easily seen by bare eye. So for this reason, even if you don't see the unclean nozzle and some dirt on them, you better clean them at least once a season seriously. And check nozzles. So you use check the nozzles with either flow meter system, and it is all done first of all every 3 years by regulation. It's obligatory, but second, farmers are advised to do it themselves. Every 1 year, just use a small a hose, or even without a hose, and you can measure the spray at certain pressure. And for this, we even introduced lately spot on, a special tool, kind of like it looks like a glass, but it's a special polymer with electric reader, very fast, measuring about 10 seconds is enough for measuring the flow in liters per minute per nozzle. So when you compare the spray at the flow per minute at a certain pressure, you compare that with the table value from our catalog, and if it exceeds 10%, then it's time for replacing the worn nozzles. Of course, some nozzles can be clogged, and of course, this measuring, you need the spot on will reach too low value. Then it means that there's something in it, something clogging and limiting the flow, which is also improper and needs cleaning, not necessarily replacing. Sprayer checks, as we said, the 15% deviation is maximum allowed, and most of the reasons for official sprayer checks refusals, especially in the earlier times, where in certain countries for the first time they started these obligatory sprayer checks, is mostly it was worn or clogged nozzles. So that's why it's good to cooperate, which most of our importers do, to cooperate or even do the spray checks themselves, which is an excellent idea, because they can measure on one side and on the other side they can instantly exchange nozzles when needed. Some defects, we after time, a little bit sorry for this. Of course, when you have drift, you have wind, the reasons can be wind or low humidity, as well as high temperature, or used too high pressures or too much airflow, which most of the cases is the reason. So to do this, of course, you have to regulate the airflow properly to the rule, as we said, to have as little airflow as needed to penetrate the canopy and not overspray to clouds or to 4 rows on left and right side. And for this, we recommend, of course, exchanging also the hollow cone nozzles, especially for slim orchards or vineyards with flat fan nozzles. In this order, most safer as a first step, transition nozzle would be 80-90. When the droplets may be too coarse, also that may be a reason. Without enough coverage, then maybe the nozzles are too big or too low pressures or too slow drive. Same, maybe everything is joined together. So for this reason, the nozzle should be properly selected and increase pressure. If the spray is too low, then you may have a pressure drop somewhere on the sprayer, some calibration, checking everything, regulating filters, clean filters, line filters especially are necessary. And when the flow or application rate is too high, then worn nozzles may be the issue, which of course, if they are really worn out, then they need replacement with the rule of 10% over spray. When a nozzle or a tip is blocked, then of course, because of residuals or used too coarse filter or not filter at all, or improper agitation or tank mixtures, then the best would be mechanical cleaning with proper cleaning brush, nozzle brush, Air is also working good. Of course, for long term, we're using finer filters. And normally one category finer, if it's line filter, then described in our and recommended in our nozzle catalog for every nozzle type and capacity. But first of all, if there are good growers and have many hectares of orchard, then ultrasonic bath is recommended. Yeah, and here you see also some other, if it's bad pattern, also it may be partially blocked and also need cleaning and using proper filtering. Out of our helpers, I already said about meteor pocket wind 4, cleaning brush, also growers or some dealers, importers can, or academics can use water sensitive paper and simply check and compare and demonstrate it to farmers to show them the retention. However, it doesn't say water sensitive paper will not explain about actual uptake, but only about retention to leaves. And a special nozzle liner for flat fan nozzles if you need something like a system to have the same 7 to 10 degrees offset on vertical booms. And final slide, just a short summary in conclusion about hollow cone versus flat fan nozzles. The pros for hollow cone nozzles are that they are very, very well proven, for decades used, and with relative success, as farmers, growers may say, hey, I used it for years, for decades, and I'm happy, I'm still making good money of that. Yes, if you spray in optimal conditions, maybe properly use air fan control, well, why not? It's not clogging easy because it has a round hole in it, and cover a lot of surface as it's many droplets, for especially for older orchards, very thick canopies that they were good with proper air blowing, of course, to penetrate deeper. That may be good, but not for suboptimal conditions, as they produce very fine droplets with little energy. So if the air is not enough, then the penetration will be definitely poor. Even if the droplets are retained on leaves, then they may evaporate very quickly because they are extremely fine, even less than 100 micrometers. Then they are driftable, and most of them get lost. As we showed, over 60% droplets are lost, depending on weather conditions, of course. And they may stain skin, which makes fruit very much of lower value because of deposit not uptaken and evaporated too quickly. Flat fan nozzles, which are low drift nozzles, they are very good because of three most important advantages. First, because they produce coarser, much larger droplets with high energy for good penetration, and normally poorer coverage is very well compensated with lower evaporation and drift. So most of these fewer but bigger droplets stay on target and not go off, not without getting lost off target. And because the droplets are high, coarse, larger, then that's not much deposit, which would leave the stains on skin. What is against, especially because of improper filtering, they may get clogged. They will require manual setup of this 7 to 10 degrees offset versus vertical on each vertical booms. And the installation needs to be cleaned properly after every day of spraying, because if you leave pesticide inside, and they will quicker make dirt deposit of the the salt to the flat orifice in nozzle, and this may make them clogging sooner. So this is a little bit cons, let's say, disadvantage. What does Lechler recommends then? Choose AD90 first, which is the safest for transition from, if they want farmers want to save on the environment, also increase their profitability as a transition nozzle from hollow cone to flat fans to limit drift and increase uptake with limited evaporation. Because this really counts, not how much you spray, how much farmers spray, but how much are left on target and how much are uptaken by leaves and do the job. So this is all from us for today. Sorry, a little bit longer than originally expected. I'm very sorry for this, but you are still welcome, especially the ones who still have time to maybe discuss something, especially like drones. Maybe Professor Chojnacki would say something about drones, about his experience, please. You're very welcome to open your microphones and videos now.
Please use the opportunity. If you're not hungry, that you need to leave the webinar and go for lunch. So if there's any question, I already mentioned drone spraying, the experience of drone spraying, of hollow cone to flat fan. And once again, do not get us wrong that everybody has to use flat fan in the future. But we see the tendency, and if there's coming more and more regulations, that our customers say, okay, I have still one set of hollow cone on my sprayer. Yeah, if I have a poor contact product like a sulfur or whatever, a real contact product, which is maybe a little bit difficult to spray, they say, okay, for this application, I will still use my old style hollow cone. But for many others, for almost all other applications, I switch to 8090 or to IDK90. As most of the more modern sprayers, they have a dual nozzle body. Some have a triple nozzle body, like on a field sprayer, so they can easily mount 2 or 3 different types of nozzles. And this we could see over the years now. As I mentioned, I'm more than 10 years with Lechler. And when I started, also in Germany, hollow cone was the real most used nozzle, but this is now coming less and less and less. And also just growers, because none of the regulations from themselves, they say, I'm just missing the arguments anymore. If somebody, my neighbor is asking me what I'm doing there, if I spray with a huge cloud, and I always compare, a hollow cone nozzle works. It works for centuries, but it's like a big hammer. It's like a big hammer. And if you use a big hammer, you can also hit the small nail or the small target, but you hit a lot around. And this is my comparison always for the hollow cone. The big hammer works, but it's not a real kind of a precise application. The more precise application is more with a flat fan nozzle and a proper setting of the sprayer. Because it's always a combination. With a 30-year-old axial flow fan, you would never reach the same result regarding coverage and drift reduction as with the more modern fan, which is taller built. You know, there's a crossflow type fan. You can run on lower RPMs and lower volumes and not creating too much drift due to the fan. This is also a tendency over the last year we can heavily see on the manufacturers. But I have a look to the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jan. Drone spraying, you know, Professor better than I. Maybe he will open his microphone or and share some experience what he did with drone spraying.
But what I can say, interesting, but not for me exactly, because I am focused on the spray from the drone. Moment, excuse me. And for me, it's interesting to low energy on the display because drone have a accumulator battery and it will be protected energy on a longer flying. Yes. And I think it is interesting because I think that there is a big future with the drone to protect the trees not only in the orchard, the trees in the parks, maybe in the forest but because the problem is to fly under the trees. Now the protection is made from the left and right hand side because we have a on the wheel sprayer, the wheels, and when a sprayer will fly, it is interesting because we are speaking about it is forbidden or not forbidden to use drones in European Union, only in European Union. But in the world, the drones are very often used. The problem is with the drift. That is very big problem because with the spraying from the air. But I think it is my idea to make the application similar to the application from the ground. That is important to high, not too high, very, very small high, very close to the trees or plants. Make this is important because we have a air make application quicker. The drops is going quicker to the aim with air, with the flow air, when it's going on the only with the gravity. It is, I think, it's helps to protect against drift, and drift is problem because of drift. The drones are forbidden, the drift of the droplets, and drones are forbidden in European Union, but in Switzerland, in Norway, and other countries where there is no, in Ukraine, the drones are used to protect.
From my point of view, there will be some new regulations in the next 3 to 5 years, because also in Germany, farmers or growers of wine, not orchard, but steep vineyards, at the moment, per special permission, they are spraying a helicopter. Normally, generally, in European Union, it's totally forbidden to use any aircraft for crop protection. But on these steep vineyards, they use on special permission the helicopter, because if there's no possibility to fly for crop protection, they do not farm anymore. They will not grow anymore wine there. And now there is 2 things we need to consider. It's the plant protection regulations and the air regulation. When it comes to regulation between 0 and 150 meters above the ground, because we are flying through the air, and there is also the regulation that it's not possible to drop something. You know, if it comes to Amazon is thinking to use drones to deliver parcels, to deliver packages. But in the past, it was just not possible to transport and drop something. It doesn't matter if it's a package or a fertilizer or seed or plant protection. So this needs to be considered. And so it gets very tricky, and both needs to be considered. But in my eyes, because we had some research done in Europe, efficacy is one question and drift is the other question. And we see challenges in both ways. And the experience we got in steep vineyards, if you have a season with a lot of rainfall and a heavy pressure of diseases, drone is not enough. You still need to do a ground-based spraying. If you can drive with a tractor or a special tractor, or in the steep vineyards, they do it by a handgun, like on a handgun, the old style with the hose on high pressure, because the drone does not give the same coverage as a ground-based unit. And the limitation is a water volume for sure.
I agree with you that should be changed the law, should be changed the regulations for the drones. Drones are not exactly aircraft, agriculture aircraft, as you said, about the 15 meters above the plants. I made a lot of experience, and I read a lot of publication, and in the word is used the height between 80 centimeters to 3 meters. 3 meters is too high, but 80 centimeters, it is maybe it will be positively seen in the European Union. I know that in Hungary is popular drone, and in Greece are popular drone because a lot. I forgot that olive trees.
Olive trees, yeah.
Very
olive
big.
trees.
Olive trees, and how to do how to do good protection. Drones are very useful, and the problem is another, because I think that drones are special plant protection equipment, but we try to use it instead of sprayer. It is quite a different situation, because look on the small wine grapes fields. The way are very smaller. A lot of agriculture make a protection with a backpack sprayer. It's better to use drones, because drones protect their health. If they are inside of the protection, inside of the spraying pesticides, they can take it on their body and inside of the body. But if they only manage drones, they are out of the fields. I think that I know that European Union Commission tried to make a regulation of the using drones, but COVID stopped it. The commissions were stopped because the infection problems. Maybe now they will start new meetings.
Yeah, and you're totally right. Globally, drones are used a lot, but as I can see, they just do it. Try and arrow. They do not consider drift, or it's better to go with a drone than with a knapsack sprayer and inhale the spray, the fine spray drops. And I have a contact with a manufacturer from Africa, because they say there's another thing there. In a lot of countries, there are snakes in the field, and if they walk through with a knapsack sprayer, also they get bite by snakes or by whatever animals. So they better fly with a drone. And of course, they need to consider drift, because on another contact who is doing trials in China, and in China, it's heavily used on rice fields. On rice fields, not up, down, just their level, because it's a rice underwater. They use drones for rice spraying, but they have no regulation. They just do it. But this guy, he's also, there are some projects going, and say they have a real major issue with drift. He reported they were spraying herbicide, and there was an 8-meter buffer zone. It was kind of a stream, and over this 8-meter buffer zone, there was a field with soybeans, and these soybeans were heavily damaged by this herbicide sprayed in corn on the other side. So this is a major challenge to avoid drift. And from our point of view, we have also need to gain more knowledge, but like an IDK 120 or an AD90, which you can run with low pressure at about 2 bar, with a good spray pattern works fine. And the IDK 90, as Jan mentioned, was used in steep vineyard, but the target was to achieve really the highest drift reduction possible. Really coarse droplets, IDK 90. From my point of view, IDK 120 or AD 120, where, to be honest, we have not that great experience with hydraulic nozzles for drones. It's also kind of a future topic for us.
Yeah. Jurek, can you tell us just one word? Which actual nozzle have you used with drones?
Hello?
Yeah. Which nozzles have you used with the drones?
Now is I forgot. I should see to my materials and moment. We use typical nozzle, but I said to you when we
yes, I can tell you it's IDK 12002, I guess. Yes.
Yes.
IDK 120 yes. It was.
Correct. But now it isn't problem for me. Nozzle, it is one side. Second side is construction of the drone, because it is different situation, because when we spray on the plant, on the field plant, and when we spray on the trees, quite different situation, like the sprayer, wheel sprayers and ground sprayers, and for me it is interesting what happens when we use drones. And I know that stream is changing because of the air. And when we spray on the field, we can use air for spraying and not use air, stream air. But when we use drone, we always have a air stream, and this stream change the stream of liquid, of drops, and this is one problem. Second problem is that when we're changing the shape of stream, that means that the nozzles should be different placed. The second problem. And the third problem is always drone in field make a protection better when we compare typical sprayer, ground sprayer, with the drone, but must be done protection with that same conditions, technical conditions, the same technical condition. That means that the same high, it is about the 50 centimeters under the plant, that same nozzles, that same speed. When we have a result of experiment, drone is better, but drone has another problems. The problem is how long drone can fly. Must go back, change the battery, change the refill, liquid. Yes, another problem. But drone always will be better in the field when we compare the same conditions of the making application.
In my opinion, for the huge fields, it's still the challenge to have the same capacity, as you mentioned. A big self-propelled field sprayer can easily do 200, 300, 400 hectares going fast with a wide boom and a safe water rate. You know, the water rate has to be always lowered with a drone sprayer. I totally agree. If we go to sunflower treatment, you know, to spray off the sunflower before harvest, that's what also they do in Ukraine. You need a tall sprayer, you're creating damage. And you do it, if you do it in the night, if you have no evaporation, you can really lower the water rate. And that's what they successfully do with drones. And I think the comment from George from Greece, he had to leave. You can see in the chat, it needs to be done much more research about coverage, drift, dose, and so on to get it into a legal frame. But what we're doing is a lot of try and error at the moment with the drones. Some farmers just buy one and try and don't care. But to really have it officially, there needs to be some more investigations, as also for us as an nozzle manufacturer.
Yes. For now, what we have approved and checked enough is flat fan nozzles. So this you can use without any obstacles and too much worry. Just cleaning and filtering. That's it.
Okay. Any more questions about the topics Jan presented, about my side comments? Sorry for interrupting you, Jan, during the webinar.
this was very good. This added value. No, come on, Jürgen. You're much more experienced than me, and me with this presentation as well. It's thank you that you really helped us a lot. Thanks a lot.
I will stop recording now.